The YWCA Fort Worth and Tarrant County transforms the lives of women, children, and their families from poverty to independence through housing stability, affordable high-quality childcare, and financial self-sufficiency. If you live in the Tarrant County, Texas area and would like to contact us, please give us a call at 817-332-6191. And for free financial coaching, please email us at moneycoach@ywcafortworth.org. Welcome back. In our final section, we're going to be discussing how to build assets safely and efficiently. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be covering in this section. To start off, I'd like to give you some examples of some different types of assets that you can acquire. First of all, you have physical assets. These are things like home, vehicle, different pieces of equipment. Essentially, physical assets have a specific dollar value that you can place on them. You also have retirement plans, things like individual retirement accounts, or Roth IRAs, which also stands for Roth Individual Retirement Accounts. You have corporate and company retirement accounts like 401ks and 403bs. The list goes on, and there are different variations of retirement plans that you should look into to suit your basic needs. You can find some good information on retirement plans at irs.gov, or just follow the full link below. You also have assets in investment portfolios. These are typically referred to as annuities. You have intangible assets, or assets that don't have a specific dollar value, but can also raise the amount of income that you could potentially gain. These are things like education, job experience, and any specialized skills that you may have. And lastly, you have savings and CDs accounts. These are pretty safe forms of increasing your monetary value. So, you might be asking yourself right now, where do I get started? Let's go ahead and discuss some choices that you have ahead of you. When it comes to building assets, there's no one magic formula that will work. There are a lot of different ways for you to build assets for the future. But the assets that you choose to purchase should be based on the following information. First of all, what are the available funds that you have for the asset? Have you saved up for it, or are you spending money that you need for other items? That can be a very crucial part to what kind of assets you're purchasing. Second, your age. How old you are is going to impact the type of assets and the effectiveness of those assets on your long-term plan. Know your tolerance for risk. Not all assets are as safe as others, so make sure you understand the risk involved in investing before making the investment. You want to check that your assets match your desired outcomes. What is the ultimate goal in acquiring this asset, and how can it play into future goals? And lastly, what available information is there on this asset? Make sure that you're getting everything you need to know about it on paper before you decide to invest into an asset. Two key assets that most people have are a form of savings and investing. Now, these two items are not the same, so let's go through and describe the differences. First of all, savings in a savings account has literally no risk of losing the money that you've put in, mainly because, as we discussed earlier, that account should be insured. So, it also gives you smaller returns. In other words, your risk and your return are related. The smaller the risk, the smaller the returns on your money. Now, different types of savings plans include certificates of deposits, savings accounts, and some other options that you need to discuss with your financial institution that are pretty secure ways of saving money. Investing, on the other hand, will always have some risk of losing the amount of money that you've put in. The risk involved usually indicates the potential returns that you can see. The greater or larger the risk, the greater the potential return. Different types of securities or investments are things like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Keep in mind that more often than not, a retirement account is actually a type of investment, so you do run the risk of losing the money that you've invested through your payroll deductions. Most often, anytime you invest into a type of retirement account, you are having that income withdrawn before taxes are taken out. So make sure that you account for how much you're investing and that it's not something that you could use for a greater purpose. Note that some investments are harder to get access to when you need them. So for example, a 401k might have some specific restrictions on what age you're able to access that account. Not all investments can be accessed as easily as a savings account. At this point, you're probably thinking, why would I want to risk my money by putting it into some type of investment in the stock market? Well, The reason people invest is that they can actually make more money than just leaving it in a savings account. When the market does well, they earn returns in the form of dividends and growth. Remember that with an investment, you'll always have the risk of losing the money you put in, but you should never invest for the short term. Invest for the long term, and over time, hopefully your money will continue to grow. Now, when investing, you don't want to put all of your money into one stock or one type of stock. When you split it amongst different kinds of investments, we call this diversification. Investing in different types of investments will help protect your money when the market fluctuates in different areas. This reduces the risk while potentially gaining larger rewards. Up to this point, we've discussed savings and investments in pretty great detail. But what are we going to use these savings and investments for? What is our goal for them? Let's take a look at this slide and talk about some of the ways we can leverage our other assets into new ones. For starters, if you're to buy a home, maybe you have some cash that you've set aside in a mutual fund, which is one of the types of investments. Or you've set some aside in a savings account. Using that asset for the purpose you set it up for will help you put a down payment on that house. Maybe you want to purchase a new car, and if you have one already, you could sell your old one in order to get some capital for the purchase of the new car, and maybe even make enough to put a down payment. If you're going to get a college education, you can use a savings account, or even try and get some grants through a different organization in order to pay for that college education and increase your educational assets. Lastly, you can think about retiring early. Let's say that you have more than one retirement account that you've been contributing to. This could potentially benefit you by giving you a dual return on the investments that you set up. The more you save, the more you can use from your retirement account when you decide to retire. The main point here is to clearly define the goal of your asset. If you know when the right time to use the asset will be, you won't mistakenly use it at the inappropriate time. Regardless of your readiness or ability to go and delve into investments, there are a few steps that you need to take to do these items responsibly. First, set up a savings and checking account if you haven't already established one at a financial institution. Second, set a savings plan and stick to it. Ensure that you have at least the minimum to keep going. Reduce your debt to an easily manageable level. It's not going to help you to invest money if you've already got a lot of debt out there. Remember, investing always has some type of risk. You want to have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved prior to investing so that you can ensure that you have a good security blanket in case of an emergency. Fifth, establish investment objectives. Make sure you know the goal for each investment you're going to take on. Sixth, do your research. Be knowledgeable. Understand your risk tolerance and determine what available funds you have to invest into those different assets. And lastly, invest wisely. Seek counsel of someone who's a professional in the field before investing. If you also want to invest into other assets or learn how to leverage your assets better, you can consult another knowledgeable professional here at the YWCA. Now, with all of these different items floating around and the different assets that you're going to acquire, it's pretty tough to determine whether or not you're heading in the right direction. So one of the tools you might want to use to make sure that you're staying on track and moving in the proper direction, that's a positive direction for you, you want to take a look at determining your net worth. This is really the number or determinant of if you're moving in the right direction or not over a certain period of time. Take all of your assets, in other words, all the things you own, the investments you have, and the cash on hand, and I want you to subtract your debts that you owe from them. If you own outright more than you owe, you have a positive net worth. And don't mistake a positive net worth for being the only indicator of success. It's pretty normal to have a negative net worth for a period of time, especially while you're building assets up towards that positive net worth. Make sure that the gap is getting smaller and smaller. And never forget that net worth is only a number. It doesn't define you as a person, but you can use it to identify if you're staying on the right track financially. So be sure to check it at least annually. As we come to the end of the section on building assets safely, I want to review the key concepts with you. First, know how to identify different types of assets, both tangible and non-tangible. Know what determines priorities of assets. What are your values and what are your necessities? Know the difference between savings and investing. Be sure that you understand how the risk and benefits of investing work. How is risk and return related? I want you to be able to identify how you can use certain assets to get new ones. In other words, how do you leverage assets? Follow the steps for responsible investing and know what the track is. And lastly, Know how to determine and track your net worth. Make sure that your net worth is moving in the right direction so that you know that you're making proper financial decisions.